Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. So today we're going to be taking a quick look at some spirit stoves. So as you're probably all familiar, the most popularized brand of these is the Trangia. And here we have a few different variants and we have a few different options. So I thought we'd go through them quickly today. They are quite a popular idea for most backpacking. If you've ever done Duke of Edinburgh or World Challenge or anything like that, then you're probably familiar with these. These go back many, many years. So I think pretty much if you've been outside for, well, any real period of time, you probably run into one of these. So we're going to go over them today. I'll just get them out. Actually, we'll start one at a time. So we have a few different options. So we've got the Trangias here, here, and here. We have a Trangia clone. So this is basically a cloned Trangia. This is another vintage version of a Trangia. So this is slightly different. We'll explore that. And then this is the military version. We do have another spirit stove. So if we start with the smaller backpacking stove, so these are lighter alternatives to the larger kits. The first we have this small set that I made. Sort of, you can buy this stuff on AliExpress or eBay. So this consists of a small 2-part aluminium pot. I've had this for quite a while now. You have the burner housing, the stove itself. So this is actually a Trangia knockoff. These things are very cheap. I mean, I personally would, well, if I was going to be using this kit for now, for example, this was many years ago, probably about 8, 9, 10 years ago that I put this together. This was my first spirit stoves. I wouldn't be using these, the fake Trangia, basically. So basically you've got this device here. I don't use the stove anymore just because it's not the best. It was very cheap. I think I paid about £6 for it about 8 years ago. So it's, you know, it is what it is. It's a multi-fuel stove, so you can use this in multiple configurations, which I'll show you in just a second. So it goes together like that. They actually still sell these. You can still buy these. As you can see right now, this is why I don't use this. So effectively it goes like that. It's just a small, I have to try to do this carefully, small multi-fuel stove. So you can build your little log fire, your little stick fire in the bottom, use it as a stick stove. You can pop this piece here into these slots inside and use your solid fuel or gel, or you can pop your spirit stove in there. So super basic, fairly lightweight, weighs about, I think this comes in about 500 grams total for the pots and the gel burner attachment. I'd probably leave that at home. But as you can see, you move it and the whole thing falls apart. So if you're on a real budget, you're looking for something super simple. I mean, these can be modified and, you know, there are things you can do. But they're a cool little stove. I mean, they're cheap. It all nests quite nicely inside a little pot. And if you get it right, there we go. And you can get the gel burner in there as well, like that. Lid on top. So that's fine. Personally, get the Trangia Mini. Trangia. It's difficult to say. So this is actually an old version. This is the 80s Mark 1, I think. So you have a lid, pot grippers. So these are kind of different to the actual the ones you get in the larger kit, but they work fine. Just a lightweight alternative. Stove in the stand, and you get your pot. I'll put that in there just to stop it rattling around. This fits quite nicely on here to stop it from rattling around too much, and that just goes on the top. So it's basically a super basic kit. This weighs under a kilo, so that's kind of a nice little thing. Really nice little stove, pretty lightweight, packs nice and small in comparison with the larger stoves, but that works quite well. Next, moving on, we have the 27 by Trangia, or Trangia, as a lot of people call it. I believe it's actually Trangia, have Scandinavian ancestry, so I should be getting that right. This one's fairly new. This isn't a vintage model. You're probably familiar with these, but we'll go over it anyway. You get your fry pan, a few added extras I've purchased to go with it, like the bag, and a strainer lid, pot gripper. So this is what you get with a Mini, and I think you get this, you don't get it with the Micro actually, because that has a pot holder built in, but these are the ultralight version, basically. Works fine. Not quite as sturdy as the original. I have the model that comes with the kettle. Actually, no, I purchased the kettle separately. Inside there, you just have the stove, little burner, exactly the same as this one. So it's just a simple burner with a simmer ring and an inner cap. Always extinguish with the simmer ring. Never use this. Otherwise, you burn it to the burner. This is quite an old one. This is an original 80s one, so it's pretty messy, pretty dirty. Just to say, the Trangia Mini is pretty much exactly the same now. This is the aluminium one. Only difference is it has a hard anodized lid opposed to the regular aluminium lid. This is the aluminium kit, just because I don't really care about non-stick. I've never had a non-stick Trangia, so why would I bother? Just simple aluminium pots. And then you get your burner stand like that. Use the 80s one, pop that in there, fits fine. They're pretty much all the same, just pops in there, and then you stick your pot on the top. You've got to fold the pot stands in. There you go. So yeah, super good piece of kit. These aren't lightweight. This one, the modern aluminium one, comes in at under a kilo. So there is something to be said for that. Although still not super lightweight, but for two people, it's a pretty good option. This is a vintage 25, which is the larger size. So this will feed or be good for 3 to 4 people. So the mini is 1 person. So that's obviously for 1 person. 27 is for 1-ish if you're cooking gourmet, to 2 people, possibly 3 at a push. And the 25 is a 3 to a 4 person, maybe 5 at a push. This is the original, so it's pretty heavy. This is from, I think this one's from the 80s as well, so it's a bit heavier. I think this is aluminium. Yeah, aluminium. Large frying pan. Pretty much the same as the 27. Got a kettle with a burner. I keep a rag in there just to clean it afterwards. A bit of a larger kettle compared with that of the 27. It's much larger, obviously, as you require, as it are the pots. So I'm not sure if they're still like this, but I have noticed compared with the modern 27, the pots are fairly rounded, whereas on the older ones, they tend to be square towards the bottom. And you can always tell if it's a vintage Trangia of a certain age because it doesn't have the lip around here. So the modern ones have a lip to keep the upper and the lower connected, whereas the older ones, they don't. So if you knock it, it just falls apart. But that's not really an issue. I've never had that be an issue, to be fair. But this one does weigh a kilo, or just over a kilo, I believe. So it's quite a heavy option. So this is actually one I purchased from Lidl many years ago. This is the first kit I had before I purchased the vintage 25, and then obviously this year I purchased the 27. So this basically is a complete rip-off of a Trangia. Lid, interesting version of a pot stand. I guess it's probably just cheaper to manufacture. Again, a fake burner or a copy burner. These are super thin. Do not buy these. For the sake of what it costs, buy a real one, please. Like these, they don't perform as well. They're very hit or miss. I've got a couple of these like fake ones that have come with these kits over the years. They either burn super fast, they don't burn easily, or they take a while to actually heat up and they don't get hot enough to boil the kettle. They're just a mixed bag. Don't buy them. Just buy a real one. So very similar design basically to the real one. You've got the bottom section and the upper section, but they have copied the more modern style, so it does click in. This ring goes in here like that. No kettle with this one, and the pot just sits there with the lid on top. So, you know, these are fine. I mean, for the sake of what people actually sell these for on eBay, I've seen a couple of these knockoffs on eBay before, and they're selling for like 20, 30 pounds. Which I don't understand who buys them. They were like £15 new at most. I've got 2 of these. One of them I use in the garden for planting things in because I don't need them anymore. They're okay. In terms of the quality, they just don't compare. The fit and finish is nowhere near to what any of the Trangias are. So the vintage one I paid £30 for. So £30 for the 25, which was a good deal. I paid £30 for the Trangia Mini, the vintage one. And then for the modern one, obviously, I paid just over about £100, I think it was, in total, because I did buy the gas burner for it, the actual Trangia one manufactured by Primus. Moving on, we've got a vintage alternative. So this is an interesting one. I picked this up simply just out of curiosity. It isn't a direct clone, so it has some differences to a genuine Trangia. So as you can tell, for a start, to begin with, it's slightly smaller form factor. You've got a beveled edge plate slash frying pan, which is quite nice. It's a bit dirty, this one. I need to restore this top ring. You have a kettle, which is a bit different. It's quite a nice little kettle, actually. The lid, burner, and a pot grip in there. It's quite a nice little kettle. It's very similar in the size to the 25's kettle, so I think they were probably producing this to compete with the 25 more so than the 27. But the interesting thing about this one is because it is a single section, so you don't actually have an upper section to the burner itself. You just have this lower section here, which I don't know why it's want to do it. That's the problem with these knockoff things. They're not great. It has this adjustable windshield, which is quite interesting. I don't actually know who produces these. I've seen a few of these on eBay over the years. They never have a brand on them, so I think they're probably just unbranded things. But effectively, you just pop the burner in the bottom. Your pot stand goes on the top. And you've actually got 1, 2, 3, which I quite like. So if I'm going to be going anywhere with a group of people, maybe 6 to 8 people, we'd probably take the 25, and then we'd probably take this one actually, because this one gives you a few more options. It has an extra pot with it. However, I have noticed there are some differences. So obviously I'm going to use this for an example. So these style, with the top and bottom sections, or the top and bottom for the windshield, this doesn't get hot. So you can place this straight on grass and it won't leave a mark most of the time. However, with this, because it is just a bottom section, this gets very, very hot. And the burner that came with this set is one of these cheaper knockoff burners. And it's awful. It is terrible. It just doesn't, it burns out in a few minutes, even if you fill it up. So I would recommend, if you do find one of these, chuck this away and get a genuine Trangia one to go with it. But this is quite a nice kit. It's quite nice. It weighs the same as the 25, but obviously has a kettle the same size, but comes with an additional pot. But this will burn the grass. This will leave a mark on the floor. So I would recommend, if you're using this, don't use them up this way, because I've seen a lot of people who will use, even with the Trangias, they'll sit the pot that way. Issue is this is still going to get hot. The transfer of heat is going to get through and burn the grass. Flip it that way. So you've just got that rim, creates an air barrier. Pop that on top like that. And then you can stick your pots on top. So this is actually quite a nice flat set, really. It's I wouldn't say it's as good as the Trangia, but it will do the job, and it does have an extra pot, which is quite nice. So if I was cooking for a larger group of people, or if I was going away with a larger group of people, this would definitely be an option for me. I sort of went into it expecting it to be really, really bad, but the windshield works fine. The pots are pots, they're just a simple aluminium. Being vintage, it's fairly well made. It's got a nice little pot gripper with it, and it's quite a well-crafted piece, really. They've got a little rib here for the pot grip to fit on. They've got holes in there to make it slightly lighter. It's quite a nicely made thing, really. I mean, and what I admire most about it is the fact it's not a direct rip-off. It's not a case of they've taken the Trangia design and just changed it slightly so they could get away with the copyright. They've sort of gone into it thinking, well, we're going to make an alternative based around the burner, and they've done a pretty good job. It works fine. And I suppose lastly, we'll go on to the military version. So these are really hard to find now. I've got this little bag for it here. So here's the burner for the military. I don't know if you're aware, but this obviously isn't a real Trangia one, but it's the same size. They're much bigger. The burners for these are much larger, a bit heavier. People are saying these aren't as well made. If anything, I think they're probably better made. They're a lot heavier. They seem a lot thicker in terms of the material than the genuine ones. You've got a simple bayonet fixing opposed to a proper screw thread. No simmer ring, however. In mine, I've got a German cutlery set in there. There is actually a guy who says, if you've got one of these and you're interested in the bag itself, there's a guy on eBay, I think it's MRE2Go, I believe. Sorry about that, just had a delivery. There's actually a guy, MRA to go, I think it is, like a kind of surplus store, that's selling these pouches on eBay at the moment. I think they're about £5 to £10, something like that. They're a nice little small pouch to stick your Trangia in. So people are saying that, are these made by Trangia? So the burner, I can say, definitely is. You probably see that right there, Trangia. So this burner is a genuine Trangia. There is a company called Svea, again a Swedish company, that produced these, or did produce these. So if you buy one of these sets, it may or may not come with a Trangia burner. You've probably seen these before. These were all over the internet, within the last sort of 10 years or so. Two parts, or two primary parts. You've got the windshield with these folding pot stands. These come out like that. Super simple, lightweight, or fairly lightweight. And you've got the mess kit itself. So this pops up. You've got the lid. You can use a fry pan. You have these little rings that come up. That allows you to extend the handle so you can stick whatever in there so it doesn't get too hot. You have your spirit bottle, a kuksa. This is a genuine Swedish Army one. If you've got one of these and you didn't have this with it, would highly recommend it. These were made to go with these. As you can see, it fits quite perfectly on the lid there. Fits nicely, and obviously it will fit inside. And these are super simple. It's just a case of you pop the burner down, shield on top, pot goes on there. So this is over a litre in size, so this is very, very good. Very similar to the 25. So as an alternative to the 25, I would say, I mean, at one point these would have made a cheap alternative to the 25. However, now they're selling for over £100. So for the stainless steel model especially, they're not really a cheap alternative. But super nice kit. You know, you just got the two parts, frying pan fits on top there like that to act as a lid. Very, very well made. These are very bomb proof, very sturdy things. So yeah, I mean, if personally, in my opinion, if you're going to go backpacking, oh, actually, just to mention, so with this one, I wanted the ability to take more pots. So I've actually got this Le Grand Tatre, I think it is vintage French aluminium kind of mess tin set. Got a lid, an inner pot, and the outer pot there with a gasket on the edges. So I wanted the ability, this is a bit fiddly, but to take additional pots, and this actually fits quite nicely inside. So if there were more than just me, I could take, you have to adjust these slightly. There we go. You could take 4 pots, or 3 pots, I suppose it would be. I don't know whether you'd want to use this piece here as a pot, to be honest, but it works. But the nice thing about this little mess kit, if you can find these, they tend to be fairly rare but cheap when they do come up. You've obviously got a rubber gasket, so that will seal whatever you've got in there. So if you're cold soaking, these are actually a good option. And believe it or not, for a vintage item, it is actually fairly lightweight. Again, this doesn't compare to titanium, but in comparison with these aluminium pots, it actually weighs less than this aluminium pot, obviously without the contents. So for a vintage alternative, it's actually quite nice because you can pop the rubber seal on there, lock it down, and it seals your food in there. I'm not actually sure what this was for initially. I believe it's just some sort of backpacking mountaineering pot. Picked this up for about £6 on eBay, I think it was. You do sometimes see this brand. I think they were quite synonymous with quality and things. They used to make probably French military mess kits and things. But yeah, super nice piece of kit. So yeah, there we go. If you're going, if you're solo, super lightweight. I mean, to be fair, this isn't really worth it. This costs about £30 to put together in terms of parts from eBay. Not worth it. Just get a Trangia Mini. If you can get the military one for a good price, I'd say if you can get it for anywhere around £60 for the aluminium set, it's worth it. It's a good quality piece. It will last you a lifetime. Pick up a Kuksa for £8 or so if yours doesn't come with it. This is a genuine Swiss military one. Don't pay more than £9 for these, especially if it's not a non-genuine. To tell if it's genuine, it'll have the 3 crowns on there. All Swedish military surplus will have the 3 crowns stamped everywhere. So they're worth it if you can get hold of them. Buying a Trangia, if you're not too too worried about the weight, get a vintage one. They sell for 30 odd pounds. You can get the 25 for 30 pounds. If you want something new, of course, you can get the modern anodized, or the non-stick, or the titanium, or they do a vintage line at the moment with your bright colors, pink or orange, I believe. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different options you can do with these. They're spirit stoves, pretty resilient to winds. Just nice to use, really. So I hope you've found this video somewhat useful. Here's a look at some random things you can get online, basically. Enjoy and stay safe out there.